Welcome back to Books for Therapy. You're listening to music by Johannes Brahms, Intermezzo in A major. I'm Yona Hunt, and I will be your host. Just a reminder that the next two slides of a minute and a half are reintroducing the book and chapter, as each chapter can be used by itself. The first book I'm going to be looking at is Dr. Julie Smith's Why Has Nobody Told Me This Before? Why choose it as a resource? Dr. Julie Smith is a clinical psychologist and mental health educator. She is known for creating short-form mental health content. The purpose of the book is to provide basic insight into the functioning of our mind and body, along with practical tools for daily mental health well-being. The content focus is a clear and detailed look at how these ideas would be discussed in a therapy session, together with simple step-by-step guidance anyone can follow. The key approach is practical, skills-based methods, where we get to pick the right tool for the challenge, give it time to work, and practice, especially when not needed. Its distinctive element is that it is a toolbox filled to the brim with different tools for different jobs, and it's not a key to a problem-free life, but with some guidance and self-awareness, struggle can build strength. The entire month of May is National Smile Month in the United Kingdom. What better image to represent mindfulness and contentment, the title of the painting by artist Peggy Bacon, than a cat? Gratitude too, but only in some cases, right? The music in the background will be a piece by Brahms, also celebrated this month. To accompany the illustration of the cat for National Smile Month, I felt the poem is a good reflection of our feelings on the matter. One smile has the power to calm fears, soften stone walls, warm a cold heart, invite a new friend, mimic a loving hug, beautify the bearer, lighten heavy loads, promote good deeds, brighten a gloomy day, comfort a grieving spirit, offer hope to the forlorn, send a message of caring, lift the downtrodden soul, patch up invisible wounds, weaken the hold of misery, act as medicine for suffering, attract the companionship of angels, fulfill the human need for recognition. Who knew changing the world would prove so simple? Chapter summary. We may not be able to stop certain ideas from arising, but we can choose where to place our mental focus. The more we try not to have our minds wander about something, the more persistent it often becomes. Instead of resisting some things that come into our mind, we can let them just be there and intentionally decide which ones deserve our effort and focus. This can deeply influence how we feel. Redirecting our focus is an ability we can learn, strengthened through practices like present moment awareness and appreciation, which is mindfulness and gratitude. There are times to examine our issues, but it's just as important to concentrate on where we're heading and the emotions and actions we want to experience and take. What goes on in our mind isn't the same as objective truth. It's the mind's attempt to help us interpret our surroundings. What gives our inner talk its strength is how convinced we are that it is the only reality. To reduce its grip, we begin by stepping back, metacognition, gaining perspective, and recognizing these patterns as just that, patterns, not absolutes. We have this ability to think, but we also have the ability to think about what we are thinking. Metacognition is the process of stepping back from the thoughts and getting enough distance to allow us to see these thoughts for what they really are. When you do this, they lose some of their power over you and how you feel and behave. You get to choose how you respond to them rather than feeling controlled and driven by something. Things that help: getting some distance. Thoughts are not facts, end quote. They are guesses, memories, and judgments as the brain uses shortcuts with limited information. We have the power over our attention not by blocking thoughts, but by shifting focus. The question we need to ask ourselves is, what do we want to focus on? Metacognition is stepping back, getting distance from thoughts, and observing thoughts about thoughts. We do this by practicing mindfulness, just as we learn to drive by taking driving lessons, which is attention training, mood regulation, and awareness of the present moment. The same is true for meditation, which is like mind gym, where in a safe space we practice attention skills, we build awareness, and engage in self regulation. We know that thoughts can become all consuming in low mood. In this low mood, the brain senses the body's distress. The thoughts swarm, they buzz around the head, as Dr. Julie says. The further impact is that these thoughts consume us and worsen our mood. We can control, though, how we act by managing these thoughts after they appear. In seeing thoughts for what they are, we create distance by stepping back from them. We see them, which is observe thoughts about thoughts. This is followed by observing feelings resulted from thoughts. That is how we empower the mind by having more control over these thoughts, the feelings, and the behavior that come from them. The power of what goes on in our minds over us is if we actually and how much we believe it. Again, we know it's not facts, it's opinions, it's judgments, it's stories, it's interpretations, it's predictions, it's memories, and it's theories. And this is because, again, the brain and its ideas has limited information. In trying to save time and energy, it creates shortcuts and uses guesses, making predictions to understand the world. Removing the mask. When we experience all consuming thoughts, we can get some distance and remove the mask they represent, as referred to in the book. The thoughts lose their power over our feelings and behavior. This is in practice mindfulness, where we observe our mind with detachment. So let these thoughts pass and wait for the next one to arrive. While some self-help books may tell you to just think positive, the problem with that is we cannot control the thoughts that arrive. If we try not to have certain thoughts, then we are by default already thinking them. It's also not realistic. Lots of people face incredible hardship in their lives. We don't want to add to that burden by setting the impossible standard of only producing positive thoughts in terrible times. That is likely to add some self criticism into the mix when they realize they cannot do that and start to think it is a personal failure. So, while we cannot inscribe every thought that the mind produces, our power is in how we respond once it arrives. We just saw that as thoughts appear, we can't stop them. So, where to focus our attention? This is the key moment where we drift on autopilot and react automatically. Instead, we can learn to redirect the spotlight intentionally through mindfulness practice by training our awareness and meditation as a structured practice. That is how we build focus muscle and mood regulation. Thinking positively and the burden of failure. Pros. Thinking positively boosts our mood. It increases our resilience and it improves our relationships. Cons. Positive thinking sometimes can lead to unrealistic expectations, to self criticism, while ignoring hardship. The cycle of intentional attention. Often we allow our attention to be carried away like the wind. The brain takes control as it reacts to threats and dangers. However, we can choose our focus by consciously directing the spotlight. So we can redirect our attention and intentionally shift our focus. This allows us to amplify or to turn up the volume on selected thoughts. Many of us don't know what we want because we've never had a chance to ask ourselves that. We have a habit of self neglect, since responsibilities overshadow personal needs and desires. We show a lack of introspection given that we don't have the habit to regularly consider our wants, so we feel overwhelmed by our problems where they dominate our attention, obscuring desired outcomes. Shifting our attentional attention. When we are in autopilot mode, we are unaware, reactive, and habitual. Through our mindfulness practice, though, we consciously direct our attention. In this way, we experience neural pathway creation where skills become more accessible. By engaging in intentional attention, we become aware, responsive, and skillful. On our journey of mindfulness, we experience uncertainty initially as we feel unsure about our mindfulness practices. But through simple steps, that is, following basic guidelines to start with, we notice mental muscle growth shown by developing focus and mood management. This leads to enhanced focus where we enjoy better concentration and attention. We achieve true mood management this way when we gain control over our emotions. Mindfulness meditation in action is paying attention, observing thoughts, observing feelings, observing sensations, and choosing the right response. This is supported by the practice of sitting meditation. Another practice recommended in this chapter is the gratitude practice, where we write gratitude list focusing on positives. Paying attention on purpose to the things we consider to be blessings in our lives, no matter how small, can trigger pleasant emotions and strengthen our neural pathways. Writing down as few as 3 things we feel glad to have in our lives is a simple way to support our overall well being. Rumination is like a thought washing machine. It's the process of churning thoughts over and over for minutes, hours, or days at a time. We already know that the depressed brain is more likely to focus on the thought biases that can make you feel worse. If you combine those thought biases with the psychological equivalent of rumination, then you have a recipe for more intense and prolonged distress. The more you ruminate, the more you stay stuck. It works to intensify and prolong any sadness or depression that may be there. So, how do we stop rumination? Rumination fuels distress, where a depressed brain and thought biases cause intensified distress. We know rumination maintains depression while neural pathways strengthen it, meaning the more we ruminate, the stronger the habit becomes and the easier it is to trigger painful memories. We disrupt the cycle with action because mental refocusing alone is tough. We use a physical cue saying stop, followed by physical movement. We stand up, walk, or change scene. It's important to ask ourselves a key question: what would I do if I was at my best? We can also visualize positive actions and directions even if we can't fully act on them. Because isolation fuels rumination, making use of human connection, meaning talking to someone, can help break the cycle. Therapists and friends act as mirrors, building awareness. Vicious cycle of rumination. Rumination is repetitive, cyclical thinking, just like a washing machine. It uses depressed thought biases, which are negative mental filters, prolonging the stress. So, focusing on thought biases intensifies our distress, prolongs our depression, and makes us stay stuck. Neural pathway reinforcement. An initial painful thought or memory arises. We experience a repeated thought process that strengthens the neural pathway. The thought triggers emotional distress and negative feelings. We spiral into a state of emotional darkness as the thought becomes easier to recall due to strengthened pathway. This way, the neural pathway associated with the thought is activated. Shifting mood with movement. When we are on the rumination slippery slope, our mind is stuck on repeat. To break the cycle, we need to use a firm hand gesture, immediately saying or thinking, stop. This needs to be followed by physical movement where we stand up or move away. Likewise, we could change activity, say, stepping outside for a moment. Because our mind's attention has shifted, the body movement changed the mind state. How to stop the rumination. When the rumination starts, the distress intensifies. We have a decision to make. Do we stay stuck or take action? If we stay stuck in a loop, more emotional pain follows. If we decide to take action instead, we say stop and move the body. We can then ask ourselves, what would I do at my best? And can take a small helpful action and, if necessary, seek connection. The chapter also includes a toolkit, making gratitude a habit, something briefly mentioned before. Identify 3 things you're thankful for. Big or small moments, what matters is choosing purposefully. Shift your attention intentionally. Train your mind to focus on positive and pleasant experiences. Reflect and feel the emotions. Spend a few moments connecting with the feeling of gratitude. Make it a daily habit. Consistency strengthens your ability to direct attention. Build your mental muscle. Over time, you'll improve emotional regulation and focus. That's all from me for now. The music in the background by Johannes Brahms was chosen as he is celebrated this month of May, as is illustrator Peggy Bacon. I hope you found our exploration of mindfulness and gratitude supportive in mastering the mental field. See you soon.